Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live event today, and happy Monday if you're joining us live. We are on to day 21. Yes, we've been going for we've gone 20 days already. So thank you so much for coming on. If you're new here, I am Michelle O'Connor, your business growth strategist, and we are on day 21 of our 30-day business growth action plan challenge, where I'm working with you as CEOs and founders to develop your business growth plans for 2026 before Christmas, before you go off for the holidays. And we are now in the execution phase where we're looking on how do we now get things done. And this is one of the areas that so many people get stuck in, because we have the documents, we have the plans, we know what we want, we know the goals we're going after, but how you do it is where we have a lot of the challenges. So if you're joining, please go ahead and drop something in the comments and let me know that you're here. You can also feel free to ask any questions. When I thought about it this morning, I was saying to myself that we have gone for 20 days and I hope that you have been building on each day based on the tools that we have been giving you and the information. And I did share last week that some persons have said to me, this is the most planning I've done for my business. And that's good, because I give you bite-sized information that you can use to take action on immediately. So thank you again for coming on, and let's jump right into it. So I decided that for the next 3 days, from today until Wednesday, if you're watching live and if you're watching the replay, it is 3 days, whichever day you're watching this on, right? I wanted to focus on how to plan. And I decided that I wanted to take the time to have this conversation because of my own experience. There are times when, as a CEO, you have a certain kind of training, you have the knowledge, you have the know-how. However, you now need to enroll your leaders to think the same way. You now need to enroll your team to think the same way. When you sit down, I've had experience where, as the executives and the board were in meetings for months trying to decide on the goal, trying to decide on the actions that we're going to be taking to achieve these goals. And then we leave and we go to the teams and we have a meeting or a conversation with them for an hour, 2 hours. If it's even a day, it's still not enough to compensate for the 3 hours of work that we have done. And we expect them to get it in that moment. And that stalls execution because they don't. It took us back and forth, emails, meetings, doing all of these things to come up with one goal, but we expect the team to take it from us, to grab it and to take action on it immediately. And it doesn't work like that all the time. And that stalls execution, because if persons don't understand what they're doing, you're going to find that there's challenge in implementing it. So if I don't know why you want me to move this from here to here, I'm going to be like, oh, maybe I can do it today. Maybe I can do it tomorrow. Maybe I can put it around here and come back around here. I don't know. And so I wanted to take some time and talk about how to plan. That way, this is something you can share with your leaders and with your team. And I did encourage our founders and our CEOs, bring your teams into this conversation, because you don't want to do over all we have done for the past 20 days with them. So we're going to just be touching on a few important reminders as we now go into the phase of we're going to be implementing, and we're going to be talking about reporting and monitoring. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And if at any point in time you would love to have a conversation, my calendar link, as usual, is in the comments. You can go ahead and book a call. Let's have a conversation. All right. So the first thing you want to do is you want to remember that your planning is not an administrative function. It's a leadership function. And how does that impact me? Yes. So what if I know? If it is that persons are coming in and thinking this is just another meeting, why am I here? This is not important. Then they just come and they sit down and they're getting ready to take notes, or they're on their phones, that kind of thing. However, if you're seeing this as a leadership function, you're coming in thinking, okay, I now need to see how it is that this information that is being shared is going to impact how I move forward and how I engage my team and how I implement and how I carry out my role. That's the first thing. So it's not administrative. You want to be very clear that this is very important and that's why I'm here. So often leaders come in the room, and I know there are different things that are happening in your organization that can cause some level of disengagement. But that's what differentiates you as a leader. It's not because you can do, it's because you're coming with a certain level of thinking that's going to drive results and drive things forward. So I've seen persons come in the room and they're sitting in meetings and they're just there to take notes. But as the leader, no, you're coming in to see what information am I going to be hearing that's going to move the needle forward for me and my team? Or how can I contribute to where the organization is going based on my level of expertise? You're not in the room by chance. You're not on the agenda, on the invitee list by chance. You're there for a reason. So I want you to think about that. See your role as important. The next thing is you're contributing based on your level of expertise. And this is important. Even though the executives and the board may have been locked in planning and strategic planning for months, they would have gotten some impact from you over the reporting cycle. But when you're in the room, remember, you're the expert. You are the one who if you're in charge of sales, you're having conversation with the sales team on the ground. You probably would have overheard different conversations with your clients. You're getting the feedback. You're on the ground. You're hearing the concern of the team. So when you come and you sit in that meeting, you are representing your entire team and you're also representing your clients. So see your role as important. You are the expert. Yes, the CEO and the founders and the executives have a high level view as to what's happening, but your role is just as important. You need to speak up and you need to speak out and you need to ensure that your voice is heard. So everyone, you need to see your role as important in this process, because we're talking about, if you're just joining, we're at implementation or execution, as you would call it. And I'm talking about how to plan, because when we hand over our initiatives and hand over our plans to the various departments, we don't want it to stall. And I'm talking about just some of the things that I want you to be thinking of. Thank you guys for joining. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop those questions in the comments. I can answer them, and then also share any feedback. Let me know the company that you have, and if you have any questions, we go ahead and we can use your company as an example as we go ahead. The next thing is, I encourage you to have proactive participation. Don't wait until after the meeting. You go outside or you send an email. It's okay if you didn't think about it in the meeting, but when you come in the room and you have a point, go ahead and share it. And I know you're thinking, oh, it doesn't matter. It does matter. These are the things that stalls execution. These are the things that oftentimes prevents an organization from achieving their goals. So think about it that way. I want to be here. I'm asking the questions. I'm giving my feedback. All of that is happening right in this moment. So I want you to think about doing that. And as a CEO and the founder, encourage that. Pause in the middle of your meetings. Go around the room if you must. Ask persons questions. What do you think? Do you see any part of the marketing aspect that we would have missed? Is there anything that you're seeing that's happening in the environment that we need to consider? Encourage active participation. One of the things that we did, and one of the things I do encourage, even if I lead a strategic planning session, I want the leaders to own and to present on the various departments. Don't have the CEO doing everything. If you are in charge of marketing, if you're in charge of sales, you're in charge of operations, IT, whatever role you play, you are the one, you're doing the presentation. You're talking about what's happening in your environment. You're presenting your own goals, because that is how ownership comes in, and you ensure that persons are fully locked in. You're sitting in the room. Another thing I want you to do, challenge the assumptions. If we decided that we talked about growth model, we're only focusing on our existing clients with our existing products, you can go ahead and challenge the thinking. Ask, okay, you know what? Maybe that's not what we should be doing. I don't get that from when I'm talking to whether my competitors, or I don't get that when I'm talking to my leaders, different kinds of things. I want you to remember that you can challenge the thinking. have those conversations. It's encouraged. Sometimes we might think that the CEO, yeah, they have things figured out. They don't need my input. They do. We do. Because you are bringing a different level of thinking, whether or not it leads to an agreement to maybe what you're proposing or not. It leads to that, okay, we're thinking, we're present, we're asking questions. So thank you again for joining. As I shared before, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. So challenge the thinking and do it respectfully. Use evidence. So if you're challenging something that was said or a decision that was made, a way forward that we're going to be embarking on, I have noticed that over the past year, there has been a lot of AI tools that are, popping up that can support us in executing what we're doing more efficiently. I noticed that we don't have a strategy for that. I can tell you from experience, there has been times when I'm sitting in boardrooms and a thought comes to me and I say to myself, no, these people are brighter than me. They know what's happening. I'm sure somebody in all the meetings that they were having thought of this. So I'm just going to sit and don't say anything. And that was the wrong thing to do. You lose an opportunity to show up and to show out and to speak for your team and even to show your expertise some more when we sit and we're quiet. And then you leave to go and implement something, and then there's a challenge and you realize that, you know what, I should have used that opportunity before. So use the evidence that you see and ask the questions. As I was going through even these last 10 days that we're going to be here, and I'm thinking to myself, what have I missed? Yes, I would have gone through the process, but what have I missed? And I used the AI example just now, and one of the things that has come to mind is a lot of us don't have an AI strategy. We haven't assessed our internal processes to see how AI is going to impact how we show up. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do a session on that. But you get to that place when you're having conversations with your team, because you can't, as a CEO and the founder, you may not be able to see everything. So as the leaders and as your leaders are supporting you, you want to encourage them, use evidence-based information, be proactive. Oh, I'm going in this room, I'm going to have an opportunity to be talking to the leaders. Let me go in with some questions. These things, when they are not done, as simple as it sounds, stalls execution. I have seen where persons come in the room and they are asked, they don't ask any questions, they don't have anything to say, and then after the meeting, there is a long discussion. It's, oh, we have to have another meeting to talk about what is first, or they weren't comfortable talking in the meeting. That's a whole different thing if your leaders aren't comfortable talking in meetings. However, as the leader, you get to clear those things up because you're stopping the organization from moving forward. So ensure you're thinking about that. And it leads me to my next point. Think like an owner. I was talking to someone over the weekend. He provides growth planning services to real estate brokers or real estate agents. And we were having this conversation about seeing your desk as a business. So if you're a real estate agent, this desk is a business. I own this. So how I show up, I'm showing up like the CEO of this area. I may not have a card that says CEO, or my name may not be on the front of the building, but this desk that I work at, or work from, I am the owner, I am the CEO, and as such, I need to show up as such. So if you think about how an owner shows up, you're showing up in rooms the very same way. You're being very present. You're not just sitting down an island and being on your phone and waiting for somebody to hand you a list of things to do. You probably already went into the meeting with your own list, right? So that is how you think through. And if you're just joining, we're doing a 3-day discussion on how to plan. We've done a lot of work on the planning and the execution. And now I want to have conversations about things that I have seen that stalls execution. You have a great plan. You've worked out your target. You know what you want to achieve. You know how you're going to achieve it. it's now time to enroll your team, and I want to ensure that we're all on the same page. So if you're just joining, thank you again. And I do have my calendar in the comments if you'd love to book a call with us. So think like an owner, and your planning is ongoing. You will get your initiatives, you may take it and you go to your team and you're having a conversation with your team about what to do, and you get an opportunity to hear their feedback as well. And then you bring it back to the meeting. And saying that, I think I'm going to, now that I've mentioned that, I need to share with you a flow chart, how you can design your planning cycle. Let me call it that. How to design your budgeting or your planning cycle, because it's a loop. As I just shared, when I just said this, it just brought that back for me, that when you would have met with your CEO and you guys agree on the goals that you're going after, these are the initiatives, when you take that back to your team, chances are your team will have feedback. And there has to be a way where you're bringing back that conversation to your executives before you would have signed off on the budget or sign off on the plan. So I'm going to create a flow chart and probably go through it on Wednesday. I'll go through it on Wednesday. So think about it, that is ongoing. It's not just you do it today and you stop. You're continuing tomorrow, and it's a continued conversation. So remember, you're going to show up, you're going to be asking questions, see how your role connects to the overall goals for the organization. If you're seeing something that's missing, I want you to bring it up. It's not a day-to-day, it's planning. You might be connected based on your role to different persons outside the organizations, and so you're having conversations with them. Bring those conversations in. Start thinking about, how can we do things differently? What are we not doing that is happening? And this could impact how we perform in the future. So think like the experts. Ensure you're showing up as a CEO. Raise your hand and ask questions. Be proactive and give feedback. These are some of the things that I've seen that stalls execution. And our aim is not just to have a document. Our aim is to have ideas and also enrolled people who can execute the ideas that we have created. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I know if there are no questions, one of the questions that I get a lot, what if I don't agree with the plan? This is a leadership. If you don't feel comfortable in saying to your CEO, I don't agree, then that's a leadership conversation. And that's for a whole nother life, because it means that there's mistrust and there are other things that are happening that, we probably need to figure out. But go ahead, raise your hands and share. And that's what we're going to be talking about. That's what I wanted to share with you today. It's very important. Trust me, I have seen where this either puts a huge burden on you, the CEO and the founder, because if your team isn't raising their hand, if they're not doing the work, if they're taking long to get the work done, you're either frustrated, you're either overwhelmed, you're either burnt out, because you're thinking, we had a meeting last week about this. That person was in the room and we were having this discussion. Why didn't they say anything? That is why I'm having this conversation today. So if they weren't able to join, please go ahead and share this live with them. And join us back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and comment replay below so we can see. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me a DM, or you can book a time in my calendar. All right, wishing you a great and productive week.